You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast by Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb, Dr. Frederick J. Long, Dr. Mario Melendez, Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and J. M. Smith. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Proof Text. I am Michael Halcomb, and in this episode, we are thinking about how to grow our vocabulary, in particular, our Hebrew vocabulary. So the word of the day for this episode is yada, yada, and that is spelled yod dalet ayin, yada, and this means to know. So we're going to pull up StepBibleorg here, and then Letter Lookup. Look in both those places. That's what I like to do, just as sort of a quick and dirty check. So if you're watching along, you'll get to see some of that. If you're just listening, that's totally fine too. But that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to throw StepBible.org up on the screen. And if you're not familiar with this tool, I highly recommend it. I live and die by this tool. It used to be Bibleworks. Now it's this. I got a new computer maybe a year ago. I didn't reinstall Bibleworks for the first time in almost 20 years, and I just started using StepBible.org. Bibleworks is still great, but I use this every day for lots of my day now as a Bible scholar and preacher. So, all right, I'm going to go to the search bar here on StepBible.org, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set my keyboard to Hebrew, and I'm going to type in what I'm looking for. So there we go, yada, and you'll see down here that several words come up. It's the first two entries. They're actually the same thing that we're interested in. So this word yada occurs over 1,000 times in the Hebrew scriptures. So the first occurrence that we get is in Genesis 3:5, where we have yode'a, and then we get yode'e. So a couple different forms there, and this has to do with for God knows that, right? And then we get it, you'll be like God knowing, tov, v'ra'ah, and you'll be knowing good and evil. All right, let's go. We can see it again in Genesis 7. We have vayade'u. Again, if you're familiar with proof text and what I'm doing with Hebrew, I like to pronounce my ayins as gutturals, like guttural stops. So here in Genesis 3:22, we have leda'at. So that da'at there is where we're getting our yada, or we have yada behind that. So to know, right, is what we get here. If we go a little further outside of Genesis, we'll see the word to Exodus. We look at 4:14, we get yada'ati. So it's all over the place, and this has to do with knowing. Now, you need to know that yada can have that cognitive sense of to know, like to learn, to perceive. But this word in the Old Testament is often used euphemistically as well. So that is, there is a sexual connotation to it. So you can say when Adam knew Eve, well, that's what it's referring to. So there's all kinds of sort of these nuances and euphemistic uses of yada throughout the Hebrew scriptures, throughout the Old Testament. So let's go to Letter Lookup, and we're going to look there as well. And you'll find the same thing because Step Bible is linked into that. But here you go, yada. Again, most people will say yada. I like to get that guttural in there, yada'a. So yada'a, or yada, means to know. And if you look at the various translations, like the AV translations, there's all kinds of nuances to this word. right? You see that there: acknowledge, acquaintance, advise, answer, appoint, be aware, comprehend, all kinds of stuff. Yep, so yada'a or yada can have to do with communicating. So really some good stuff here. If we want to look at Jastrow or Gesenius, let's look at Jastrow really quick and look at the entry in there, although what we just looked at is based off of that. But it's good to keep up our skills of knowing how to use Hebrew lexicon as well. So we'll scroll down here and you see it there, yada'a. So that's actually a little bit of a different form. Let's go back to the previous page. See what we got there. There we go. Yada, to point out, select, love, to recognize, know, find out. And you can see various examples of this used in rabbinic or Jewish literature as well as the Old Testament. So pretty cool to know this stuff. Again, don't forget the euphemistic use of that, because it's all over the place in the Hebrew scripture. So yada'a or yada, depending on how you want to pronounce it, how you've been taught to pronounce it, and maybe how your professor or your book will teach you to pronounce it. So yada, yada'a, whatever works for you. All right, I'm going to stop there, and I hope you know, get it, yada'a. I hope you know this word and its meaning by now. And also, I hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glosshouse can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glosshouse offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glosshouse.com today. Glosshouse, language resources for the global community.